I've started putting up the paneling on the port side of the van, and the very first thing I have to do is notch around this dimmer switch, and then I shimmed it so that it would come up flush with the paneling here. Okay, so I've got the second board up on this side, sandwiching in the dimmer. Now I was hoping that the dimmer would be flush, but it isn't. It actually sticks out a little bit. So that's kind of unfortunate, but there's not much I can do about it, so I'm just going to have to build something that sticks out with the copper faceplate. Now, sticking with the copper and penny theme for the van, this is a British penny that I've drilled a hole through, and then the light wire here is sticking through. So that will be glued in, and then that basically the fairy lights will slot right onto it. I've added another switch for under cabinet lighting above the stove. This is exactly the same as the one that I installed in a previous video. Okay, so the toggle switch has the faceplate fully installed, and it's working. Basically, it's just connected to this wire for now. Once the shelf goes up, then the LED strip will be installed. This is just an update here on how it's coming along. I've got 5 boards up, and I've got most of the holes for electronics that I'm going to need to put in this wall already completed. I've been filling in the holes, the knots in the wood, basically by putting a piece of very thin wood behind the board with wood glue. Now I've missed one right here. It's very subtle, but I can see it, and it's definitely noticeable because it reflects off the reflective vapor barrier here. Light reflects off that, so it actually kind of glints at you, which I'm gonna have to find some way of filling that. Okay, so this paneling here goes all the way down to where the countertop will be. So now basically I'm gonna bring it down a little bit beyond. Basically over here is where the couch is gonna be. So I'm gonna bring it down sort of to where the seat of that is. There will be cushions that go up and kind of cover up a lot of it, but I still want it to be there in case those cushions are taken off or for whatever reason they're not there. If I want to make a change or something like that in the future. But this bit here, the countertop will be there, so there's no real point to going down below that. So I've completely finished the paneling on this side of the wall here, except for the bed area. And you can see here kind of the shape of the kitchen and a little bit of where that bench is going to be. I've started putting up the paneling that extends over the bed area. It's just this little short bit here at the end of the wall. And so far, so good. I've just opened the door a little bit to make sure that it will make it right over top of that board, and it works perfectly. So I'm going to bring this down to the level of the bed. So I've hung up the fairy lights above the bed now that I've got the 2 panels on either side up there by the ceiling. That's what these are attached to. And I've just stuck them up with tape to see what they look like. I think it looks really cool. So the area above the bed has been paneled on the left-hand side. It's now time to complete the right. And that's both sides done there. Now I might put some sort of stripping down the seams here so that it covers that joint because it's not terribly pretty. I really like the knotty pine. I think it's a really good look for the walls. And I want to try and use as many natural finishes as I can. For some things it won't be practical, but for this I'm going to be using some double boiled linseed oil. And this is a product that I've worked before when I've done carvings. It smells fantastic and it creates a nice, very, very natural finish. So that's what I'm going to be using, and just applying that with a rag onto the walls. It doesn't show up too well on camera, but if I move back and forth here, you can sort of see where the oil ends and where it's just sort of flat without it. It really brings out the knots and the grain of the wood, and I think it looks fantastic. It smells really, really good in here. So I've taken down these parts of the door jamb and painted them blue. Now, I'm doing this separately so that I get a really even transition from the blue of the inside to the gray of the outside of the door jamb. So those beams are painted, and then this thin little strip here has been added on the left-hand side because it's on the right-hand side. Basically, it's part of the door jamb. So I won't close the door, but basically this catches the door, this little thin strip here. And it looked really strange with it on one side, but not the other. So basically the bit that goes on top looked unsupported on this side because the eye was sort of drawn to that little bit of overlap on this side. So now that it's even, I can add the top beam. So the top beam is curing, and there are 3 screw holes in this structure. There's one right there on the top beam, and then one on this post here. So I'm going to go in and fill those in with wood filler that I can go back and paint over top of. I've also used the wood filler to fix some uneven surfaces. This bit here from the original frame was chiseled out, so I'm going to fill that in and make it a little bit more flush. So I've gone ahead and finished painting the top bit, and I'm really happy with it, all except for that gap right up there at the top. That really bothers me. And besides, it could kill stealth potentially. So what I'm planning on doing is cutting another one of these strips that go on either side here and putting it underneath this top beam like that to hide the gap. So I added that second beam along the top there, and it makes a huge difference. That gap was so ugly, and now it looks like a proper door. So these boxes here are basically sliding door pockets. That door there, say, is open, so currently it's behind this box here. So I've just covered it with Reflectix because I want to keep this profile as thin as possible, but I do want to have some further insulation and basically just something to stop metal touching wood, and I find that Reflectix works fairly well for that. So there won't be an air gap for this thing, wood will go directly on it, but I did need to do something for it. So I'm just taking apart some pallets here because I want to use the wood for the wall at the bulkhead. Now I've just put this little splash of blue here because the pallets have some holes in them. And on the pine paneling, I've solved that problem by putting little bits of wood behind it. On this wall, I want to put little paint blotches of blue behind it, and I think that that will look really cool. Okay, so I've put up one board here, and you can see that it goes almost to the edge of the counter here. Need to put one more there. But this knot looks absolutely fantastic. That's a real problem with reclaimed materials, is the imperfections, and finding ways to make them into beautiful parts of the build is something that I find really interesting. So this looks really, really cool actually. Okay, so I've added a few more boards, 2 on the left-hand side, adding on to the board that was there. And then I've jumped to the other side of the doorway and put in a board. This so that I could mount the main light switch. Finally, that can stop dangling and it can have a set position. And also because I want to do the top of the doorway, and basically I want to be able to have a start and a definite end point for that, because I'll have to cut some pieces very precisely. So let's take a look at this light switch. Again, we have the same copper plates that I've been using throughout the van, and then this rocker switch which was installed, and obviously I've shown this before. When it's down, all 4 of the top lights come on. When it's flicked up, only the 2 for the kitchen do. And then that's on a single pallet board that goes up here and is notched around the door frame here and continues straight up. So I've started going up and over the door jamb here, and I also swapped out the screws for a black wood screw. I think this looks better with the pallets than the shiny silver screws I've used throughout the van. So here's the progress on the pallet wall. I've got about halfway across the kitchen here. I'm just trying to keep it varied so that there's no real pattern to where the boards end, and so far it's looking really good. Progress on this has been pretty slow, but I've managed to get boards to go all the way across the back wall of the kitchen there. I just need to bring it down on either side of the door now. Progress is kind of slow because I'm in a lot of pain recently, and I'm only getting a little bit done every day, waking up quite late. Okay, so that paneling now goes right down to the edge of the door. This bit here will obviously be hidden by the counter. I now just need to figure out what I'm going to do exactly with these door wells. So I've decided to basically panel over the back here and then to place a shelf right across here. Now you can see on the back of this board that I've slotted it to fit right over top of this metal beam, and then I'll just continue this so that I've got a flat wall. So I'm installing the back panels, and what I decided to do is paint this blue just so that if you see through any of the holes or anything, you can continue the theme from this wall here. And then I'm putting some construction adhesive in the gap there, putting it up against this, drilling a hole through the metal, and then putting a screw in to secure it. The pallets above the door well are installed, And now I think I need to finish this paneling here. Okay, so that top board there should go right up to the edge of the door when it's open. And now I can finish working on this shelf area. So I put in this board here, and I'm going to continue this way and then go around the corner, and I'll leave the top for now. There'll be a shelf up there, but I'm not going to do the shelving until after I've finished the kitchen area and I know exactly where I want to put it. A pallet wall is definitely something that you want to seal off, so for that I'm going to be using polyurethane. One coat of polyurethane is fully applied and it's looking a lot better. I'm really quite happy with the way this looks. So that's where I'm going to leave off this video. I've put up the paneling on the left-hand side of the van. I've put up the pallet wall for the most part. It still needs some further work, but I'm going to need to wait to get some more pallets as I'm not able to do that right now. So I'm going to sign off and thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.